It's a very strange fire. When I got up in the morning, I looked out to the south and east and saw smoke coming up. It wasn't that big, and it looked like it was a couple canyons over.
My son and I were sitting back here watching the fire come up the valley, and then all of a sudden the wind shifted.
Literally, the winds had shifted, and the fire was probably only about 500 feet down the road.
And it started blowing over towards the east, and then all of a sudden it started blowing back, then this ridge blew up.
You could see walls of flame shooting way up above the tops of the trees and the houses.
It was totally unpredictable.
What everyone in the mountain knows, that you're supposed to have a plan, you're supposed to have an emergency escape box. And like most people, we knew we should do that, and we didn't.
He called me and said, "What should I take?" And I said, "Take the passports? Try to get pictures?"
So I got some of the things. I got the passports, I got
And that's all.
a few clothes,
Yeah.
and that was about it.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I would have taken very different things.
As firefighters, we do what's called triage, where we go through and we say savable, not savable. And we have about 10 seconds to make that call.
One of our family people called up there, gave us a heads up.
Some houses were easy to protect, some weren't.
There's too much burnable material too close. In the yard, there's a lot of brown, dry grass.
So if your house looks better than not, we're probably going to go try to save that. If you've done nothing in your yard, we're going to say we'll go save the people's houses that have. I came in from the west and the wind was blowing pretty heavy. The trees caught on fire right on the edge of town. The row of houses where the fire was right behind it had 250 foot of flame potentially. You can't tell where the flame ends in the smoke. That's intense.
We sat on pins and needles for a day and a half, figuring, well, our place is gone.
We evacuated Gold Hill. We gave up on this town because of fire conditions. And the last thing I did was stood and watch. I left town, had a tear in my eye at the bottom of the canyon, saying, wow, we just lost our town.
The quote we got was, "Gold Hill is burning."
Two plumes that come up right here over Gold Hill. My name's Andrew Brian Martinek. I'm on Indian Peaks Fire Department. The sun blacked out. It was like nothing you've ever seen. It was apocalypse now.
It was black.
My family's always been in and around these parts. They used to live in Gold Hill. Chris Finn said to me, "What has God got against Gold Hill?"
Yeah.
I saw the smoke plume. I got my gear on. I got down to the road.
I was over in Jamestown at my mother's house and saw the smoke and sped out and then got the call.
The first Indian Peaks vehicle was already leaving. Jumped on, came straight over here.
And was here probably 30 minutes after the page went off, 20 minutes. We didn't take long to get here.
The Gold Hill guys tragically got sent to Emerson Gulch Fire right away, and they wouldn't let them back up 4 Mile back to Gold Hill. They got trapped away from their own town. They put us on their trucks. We started just down the way here on Dixon Run, where Rim Road tags into Dixon Run. We were just building line, putting out fire that was there, back burning. Down there was every other house burnt, every other house didn't. We did what we could, but a lot of houses had firewood stacked on their propane tank, and that led to explosions. And it was so sporadic. Like, I watched it burn around a truck and then back to the house and burn the house. And his truck was still there the next day when we came back, and his house was gone. All day we were waiting for air support, waiting for air support. It was never coming. We thought Gold Hill was gonna burn. And then finally at the end of the day, number 54 bombed and dropped retardant up the back of all these houses right on the line.
I remember that drop because it was real intense.
And he dropped in low and he just painted the back of all these houses red perfectly with retardant.
Oh, the visibility was horrible. But it's the wind that was pushing it.
And the amazing thing is half the house is red from the retardant and half is not. So he got half houses and mostly fire, and that's just impressive.
We have really talented people in the lead planes that pick out that stuff, and we just get on their tail and just go do it.
This guy nailed the drop.
You couldn't have asked for a better shot, you know?
This is where they made the stand. My brother, see all the grass he cut here? When my brother stayed here behind, I had cell phone contact with him. And I called him from Lafayette to tell him that the slurry bombers had finally taken off about 10 minutes ago. And he was here, standing here in the meadow, and he looked up and he said, "I see them coming. Here they come, here they are." And then the next thing he said was, "Oh my God, I'm all red. They got me. They just laid down a line of slurry and I'm all red," and that was so great. There was joy in his voice.
I was never so happy to get slimed in my life. It could have been vomit as long as it put the fire out. I didn't care.
It's funny, you look back at all these houses that didn't burn and there's slurry. I mean, you
I
can
know.
see the
Yeah.
slurry patches everywhere.
This is a good picture too. This is
I
the
love
town.
that picture, the overhead shot.
You've seen that one probably.
That's right where we're at right now.
That's the house. This house, right here. So
Yeah,
that's-
that
And that was this exactly. I mean, the retardant drop was right here,
Yeah.
and then the wet line
We
we
cut
formed
that
off
line.
of it is what's still green.
Literally 15 or 20 minutes later, this place would have been ashes.
It was in the nick of time. A minute later, it could have. It was none too soon.
Without the boys on the ground, the drop wouldn't have done them any good. I mean, I'm just a tool in the tool shed.
When we fled, I was like, this is sad. I was like, I hope Gold Hill doesn't burn.
The topography here is intense. You know, most of Boulder County is the western half. Once you get west of Boulder, is like this. It's steep canyons, steep rocks. That's going to be a major factor. Weather's the other major factor. That day it was blowing very hard.
The wind was so intense that day that, I mean,
It was
you
a
just
firestorm.
exactly.
It was just fire everywhere.
The wind was in charge. You just kind of
Yeah.
tried to stay out of its way.
The third one is fuels. Our mountains are heavily laden with fuels right now. If you look around here, we've done a lot of fuel mitigation at people's houses. The Forest Service has done a ton. And I think they have some good information where some of that worked for this fire.
They
Dangerous for the
reorganized us,
trucks
and
that's
at
going
that
down
moment,
that
the
road.
wind had died. That was the
we got
major
lucky.
difference, was the strong wind died.
got lucky
All of a
as can
sudden, the
be.
wind was neutral. And they sent us all back up. We lined 20 trucks long, starting here, me and
We were still
Rusty
first
with
in line, though.
5404 and a Gold Hill truck. And leading up the way, we had High Country, we had Left Hand, we had
30
Jamestown.
trucks.
Everyone here was doing everything they could. And we all formed a wet line right here and started putting out spot fires, trying to save houses. And that
Yeah,
was
and
really the
burners all
saving
the-
moments of Gold Hill.
It's been unbelievable. I came up a few days later once they opened it up, and I wanted to see what work we had done and seeing how we did. And the residents saw that I had a shirt on. They just come up and they're hugging you, they're thanking you, they're bringing you bottles of wine.
We really want to find the slurry bomber. They got free beers here for the rest of their lives.
It was wonderful. People were awesome.
It's just unbelievable, and they were so thankful. And I was blown away that their house was still here. So I just had a little bit of feeling. They had this huge amount, you know.
We've got a lot of people to be thankful to and for.
Everyone here gave what they could to protect a neighboring community.
We just did what we could, but this town is unbelievable. It's a unique town, and it's always had that town spirit.
It seems so capricious, and I'm sure there's science behind it, but I'd like to know.
And we've lived in the mountains in two different places. In our last house, I guess we had a very cavalier attitude. You know, we had decks You could reach out and hug the trees.
Who
from
were
the
younger.
decks. And, you know, in hindsight, if we'd had that house in this fire, it would be gone. You know, you should really take seriously the information you get about defensible space. Mowing the grass and the weeds around your house. You know, creating good access so firefighters can get in with a big truck full of water. Things of that sort that sound like, yeah, but they make the difference when a fire comes through.
They can make the difference if
Yes.
the conditions are right.
There are no guarantees,
No
of course.
guarantees.
But you can be pretty sure that if you haven't done all these things, you know, your chances are much worse.
Probably the hardest part for me is the fact that it was kind of loved by the community.
The old homestead place out there that was well over 100 years old, that building, it's gone now, but there's a big yellow rose bush that was growing right next to the wall of that place that's still there. Why? Nobody has a clue. You know, it's just one of those things.